Let's talk about complicated structures, by which I usually mean multi-layered, maybe beams.
Well, talking about complex layer structure, the first thing that we need to find is where to change the layer settings. It's always in the settings of this specific item. Actually, the software is coming with multi-layered slab styles that you can just select this item and you can just move on and change to any of those. I will just, I don't know, select this first here. So you can see that the software is shipped with multi-level, multi-layered,
just like walls,
complex items. So you can go with those. You can even create your own. And if you would like to select this and further detail it, the way it goes, you go to the properties and then you go to the slab layers. Now in this dialog, you usually have as many layers as this slab by default had, and then you can just clone this existing layer. So you can say that, okay, now I'm about to clone this existing one, so I have double the size, double the thickness, and then I can just change it. This should be around, I don't know, 20 centimeters, and the top layer should be, let's just make it 8 centimeters. That's too much. 0.08, and then let's add one another, and this should be, I don't know, 2 centimeters. This will be like for the tiling and so on. This is a slab, reinforced concrete slab, the concrete layer, and so on. Now what you see here, that all these three layers, they have the same material, and the reason to that is that I have cloned these and I didn't change them. If I would like to change this to something like regular concrete, I'm just just select this here. Okay, I'm about to change this for tiling. Let's just go with, for example, this here. And this is just a cross-section material. This is how it will be represented if you make a cross-section and you render it. And this is the way actually you can define how it will look like when you do the regular architectural section. Materials define how the architectural section hatch looks like.
Oh, so you don't have to set up the hatches one by one. You just have to set up the appropriate material, and that would govern how the two-dimensional.
Yes. If you would like to see how that works, you need to just select the concrete material, and go and this is selected here. You need to go to the edit material options, and then you will have the setting the hatch on section, and this is what defines how this material looks like when it's intersected with the section line and represented as a drawing. This is how it looks like. So and there is another way which represents how it looks like in the elevation if it's a surface material. So these are the two settings for drawings. Now I'm just closing this, and you can also give a name to specify
so that
something for the Excel list, for example. And this is how you can further determine it. And if this, for example, this is for example an air cavity or something like that, you can even disable the visibility and make it not appearing in the 3D space like a regular slab layer. And also there is something called this is the displayed layer. I will cover that just in a second. So let's just say, okay, I'm done with this. And if I would like to save this as a new style, I can just click here and say, this is the webinar.
As with everything else, you can work with styles, for example. You can save them, you can use other styles created by other colleagues of yours.
Yeah. So now I have this, and then I can say, okay, and then I can just export that and start drawing with this in a new project as well if I save that.
Now, there are two things what I would like to talk about here. One is having beams shown in the slab, and another thing is that the cuts, how walls are cutting the slabs, or the other way around. So you promised that there's a couple of things you want to cover regarding the cuts.
Well, talking about the slabs first, there's one interesting thing here. See, now the complete structure somehow jumped with the complete thickness of this height. And why is that? Talking about the slab layers, now when I defined the thickness, I defined a positive value. And then I can see that the base offset, that's where the slab is at 0. So if I use a positive value, it goes up above this layer. I just need to change the sign of any of these, and then it will go downwards from that space, and this is how it looks like then. So this is how you can change it. And an answer to your question, how the specific items solve their connection with the slab is actually happening here. When I go and select this slab here, I can see the counter is a full counter. It did not break around this column. But
yes.
if I just hide or erase this for a moment, I can see that it's actually extracted automatically from the slab. We will talk about extraction a little bit later, because there's a specific function for the columns and the beams in case of handling them inside the walls. But this is also something that automatically happens. And besides this, there is another setting, there is another option that you can check and set when you need that, and it's in the settings of the slab, and it's called the cut the walls and cut by roofs. The cut the walls defines if the slab is above a wall which is tall enough to grow larger than this slab, then by default the wall is stronger than the slab. So the wall makes its own space, or the layer makes its own space and removes that from the slab, and this makes it very easy to create a very thick multi-layered slab, and then just create a partition wall and which is automatically sitting on the proper layer, and you don't need to do anything with that because it solves itself. That's how it works. But if you would like to go the other way around, and you would like to make the slab stronger and the slab stopping the walls doing anything, then this is what you need to change. You need to change the cut by wall settings, and this will, in this case, this specific slab will cut the walls. And there's another option to use the cut by roofs. And if you imagine there is an attic, for example, there's the roof and there's a small attic slab above that. If you just draw a larger slab and then there's a roof sitting on it, it will automatically cut the proper parts off this slab if you set this option to all floors instead of no cutting. So there are these two options, and there is actually a third one, which is the extract slab from terrains, which is useful when you use the slabs as pedestrian walkways or other things, and you just would like to excavate that part of the terrain automatically. Then this is what you set here.
What about visible beam structure? Now, obviously we have a beam tool, so you could be drawing the beams one by one and then put a slab up on top of it. But there's an option in the slab tool itself which is able to host beams in the slab structure. Now let's see how that works.
Yeah, if I'm about to set up the beams, and actually it's called the beams and block flooring system. There are two options that you can set up the beams and the blocks inside. Now I will just cover the beams. Here, if I click on create, then the software will use this default cross section that I can see here, and I will actually just change this to something
it could be
like a regular rectangle. I'm just going to find the profiles, and I think it's somewhere in general, but the good thing with this, you just need to go to the home and you type the rectangle and it will find.
Let's say this is a wooden structure, maybe.
Yeah, let's go with that option. So this is a rectangle. By default it has a certain size, and if I change it to, I don't know, I would like to make a 10 by 20 wooden beam, so I just change it to, I don't know, 10. And by default these options, they are locked together using this option. So if I just would like to disable that, I just unlock it and then say this is the way I would like to see that. Okay, and then I have this option. There are offsets here which determines how this this whole beam structure is positioned, and with what sort of distance between the beams, I mean the beam axis, how it should be designed. And there is this C level, which is actually measured from the bottom of the slab, right? Of the slab layer, and it's very important. It's measured from the first, the second, or the third layer, and here's the guide here, which determines that okay, the first layer is the thickest one, and so on and so on. So this is how you can easily set it up. So let's say okay, I'm done with that.
But you could also set up the material as well, but it's not a problem now.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a visible structure, but it's sort of, the gaps are filled. So how do we make that disappear?
Yeah, well, there are two options. First things first, if you would like to create, this is what I have started creating. It's not a wooden floor. It's a concrete floor. So going and working with this sort of cross section, it's fine. But if I would like to make a supportive beam structure, I have two options. I can select it and then go to the slab layers and say, I just don't want to see this. And this kind of solves the situation. There is also another way, which is, I think, it's much better, and it describes how this whole inheritance works inside the structure of this whole thing. If I'm actually erasing that layer, so instead of disabling it, I just select it and erase it, and then what happens? Should the beams disappear because I have erased those layers, or they just move to somewhere else? And actually the latest will happen. They automatically jump to the following layer. So the software won't destroy what you have created. It just tries to find a better position. Now it's not good now, so I just further edit it and say, okay, let's erase this as well. And then when I'm changing the beams and block flooring system settings here, there's this value C. Remember, I have used a cross section 10 by 20. So if I use this offset like C and it's minus the same as the height of this beam, I will create something. We have the column fall down.
Yes.
So yeah. Fall. So this is what I use now, and instead of a positive value, I just use a negative value. So that's the same value as the height of this column, I mean beam. Okay, let's just go okay, and then now it's a supportive system.
So that's the recommended workflow, right?
Well, there are many ways. This is one of the recommended ways of solving this situation, because now I'm about to use it in a built-in manner. And talking about the beams, there are two other options that I should quickly cover. One is the span direction, and then if you select this here and say, okay, I'm about to change the beams and slabs, I cannot see what determines their direction, and it's actually something that you can find here in the local menu of this slab. Now we can actually see the beams, and there is this there's a whole bunch of things about editing the layers, the holes,
or you could move the beams around, for instance.
You can even modify the beams in slab, and there's the span direction option. This is how you can determine a different direction. I'm just actually locking the direction and defining something else.
So that's how you can turn them.
And if you would like to move this structure here, you just need to click on one of the beams and say, let me just undo this, and say I'm about to, edit it or move it or delete all of these, or insert one beam, which is useful when you would like to insert something like this here, and so on. So this is how you can work even with the framing.